Are SBA EIDL loan increases still being processed? What is going on right now with the EIDL loans? I'm going to cover everything. My name is Michael from Viral Funding Solutions, and I'm going to get right to it. So if you haven't heard the latest news, there are things circulating around the U.S. Senate with the SBA urging them to continue processing those people who requested an increase who are stuck in the queue. So if you're unaware of this, I'm going to be getting into the share screen, going over what some of these articles entail. There will be a letter as well showing what is going on for those who requested an increase. And when the funds were completely depleted, that's when the SBA said, hey, no more. We're not processing anybody who's in the queue. We're not getting any more of these increases to be applied for, and so forth. I'm going to be getting into the share screen in a moment. But for all information, if you guys need any help getting started, look in the description down below. I'm pretty sure it's already all there. And if you're watching me right now on this live, please give me a hashtag live in the comments. If on replay, hashtag replay. I know many of you are busy. You're probably working right now. You saw a notification pop up. You just thought you would just tune in for a quick few minutes, which is what a lot of the times I would do when I was in that situation. But let's get right into this. Let me open the share screen. And let me know, where are you guys tuning in from? How's your day going? Okay, so there is a press release here from the U.S. Senate committee urging the SBA, and we're going to talk a little bit about who, to continue processing those increases that were stuck in the queue that are currently still after the amount of funding has been completely depleted. So here is a quick one, and then I'm going to get into the letter from Washington, D.C. U.S. Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship Chair Ben Cardin and U.S. Senate's Appropriations Subcommittee on Financial Services and General Government Chair Chris Van Hollen, both DMD, today sent a letter, which I'll get into in a moment, to the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA for short, Administrator Isabella Casillas Guzman, who I've spoken about previously on this channel, and her part in all of this and helping with other forms of the Senate get more funding pushed out to people in a specific deferment. So urging the agency to process pending COVID economic injury disaster loans, EIDL program applications using available funds. Last week, and I made a bit of an announcement on this, the SBA announced that the deadline for existing borrowers to submit applications for loan modifications, rehearings, the appeals would be May 6th. So yesterday, May 5th, which for today I'm releasing this on the 10th, the SBA alerted the borrowers that the agency would no longer be accepting applications one day ahead of its own deadline due to a lack of funding. By the SBA's own admission, there may still be funding available for transfer to the program to meet demands. The senators urged the SBA to use its transfer authority to accommodate borrowers who want to submit for a modification, rehearing, or appeal. And this is what the senators wrote. And here you're seeing it in bold. By prematurely shutting down the program, the agency appears to have prioritized its own administrative needs over those of the thousands of borrowers that await decisions on their applications. Furthermore, it has done so in a way that has needlessly confused borrowers and raised expectations, which is the case. So many people have been confused and led down the wrong path, thinking that, hey, but I put it in an increase. Why did you guys just shut it down when the funds were completely depleted? Why wouldn't you guys look at this at least for a reconsideration? And I get that. So it raised a lot of concern and a lot of suspicions out there, because just as when the funds were depleted, that's when it was announced, and usually it was like the day before, which is being stated. So the senators continued, if funding does indeed remain available, that could be transferred under the authority of IIJA to serve borrowers in the EIDL loan program. SBA should exercise the authority immediately so that the pending applications for modifications, again, rehearings, and appeals can be processed and funded. So I'll be getting into the letter here. Let me move over screens. Hi, Brian. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Oh, no way. Yeah, that was their duty to do that. Yeah, a request for a tax transcript. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. And I know there's more detailing in that behind the scenes that I don't know too much about. So I can't say, and I can't speak specifically to that loan officer who was handling your file. So I'm not saying there could have been something else, but they could have been done better at communicating with you much earlier. So over here we have the United States Senate. Oh, hold on, let me switch screens. I forgot I was on StreamYard. That's the wrong one. This is what I needed to do. I think you guys can see the letter. Yes, you can. So United States Senate, Washington, D.C., May 6, 2022, from the Honorable Isabella Casillas Guzman, Administrator, United States Small Business Administration, and then you have a little bit of the address there. This was to her, not from her. So Dear Administrator Guzman from the SBA, who I've spoken about previously on this channel, I've released videos about what her part in all of this is and how she's connected with other parts that helped get more of this funding pushed out, the deferment, and so forth. We are writing to express disappointment in the Small Business Administration's SBA decision to close down the COVID EIDL program ahead of the May 6th deadline that it announced to borrowers last week. This decision is particularly confounding when, by the agency's own admission, additional funding remains available for transfer to the EIDL program under the authority of section, and there's a number here, that B2A of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is what I spoke about earlier, IJA for short. By prematurely shutting down the program, the agency appears to have prioritized its own administrative needs over those of the tens of thousands of borrowers that await decisions on their application, which I spoke about earlier. Furthermore, it has done so in a way that has needlessly confounded borrowers and raised expectations, as mentioned again. Over the past week, SBA sent notifications encouraging existing borrowers to apply before the program closed on May 6th by announcing that the program was out of funds on May 5th, prior to the application deadline. The SBA has misled, keyword, thousands of struggling small businesses into believing that funding for EIDL loans would be available. Furthermore, if funding does indeed remain available, that could be transferred under the authority again of the IJA to serve borrowers in the EIDL loan program. SBA should exercise the authority immediately so that the pending applications for modifications, rehearings, and appeals can be processed and funded. The administration's request in the president's budget for $320 million in transfer authority from the EIDL Targeted Advance grant, the Targeted Advance program, yes, has not been approved by Congress, and it is not within the administration's authority to prejudge Congress's intent by setting aside funding for program administration when eligible small businesses have yet to be served. Considering that the SBA transferred $500 million to its administrative account less than 2 months ago under separate authority in, again, the section here, 900,006 B2B of the IJA, the decision to refuse to tap funding that could be used to keep the EIDL program operational is that much harder to comprehend. We expect your urgency to take swift action to make all available funding accessible to eligible applicants immediately, and look forward to your prompt response. And then sign there, you can see from Benjamin and then you can see from Chris as well, from the two of them. Now let me move this over and talk a little bit about this. All right. Appreciate you guys for still being here with me. And if you had to go, I understand it. I did not broadcast this out as a live like I would usually. So it's convenient for you. If you're here, if you're not, you can watch it later on in the replay, watch the full. But really, those loans that if you requested an increase reconsideration, and because of the funds that they were depleted, that completely shut down from anybody who was already in the queue from being looked at. So now that the funds are completely diminished, those will be continuously processed, and there will be like a back end amount of funding there available of whatever is left. And so that, in quote unquote, is a secretly made way that people are looking at getting funding still through the SBA EIDL loan, as you can see what's happening with the US Senate and what has been spoken about through the SBA and what should be considered and how many people have been misled. I'm sure maybe you're one of them. Perhaps you already received your increase, you received the initial amount, you were declined, and I'll get into what some of those alternatives may be. Let me see what you guys are saying over here in the comments section. Hi, Owen, how are you doing? Yeah, the thing is, though, it would be a little bit more difficult to necessarily get somebody who did not already request an increase. So for somebody who had already and did not receive anything, those are more the people who are being looked at in the queue, not necessarily individuals so much as, well, I never requested an increase, can I do it now? It would be very difficult to, unless something really did change. So you would want to continue to look in your EIDL portal. And as of May 16th, that is when everything should be shut down and you shouldn't get access to it. So if there's any documentation, any extra notes that you perhaps were given, then that's where you want to refer to before any of that does happen. Which you should rightfully so, Brian, and that would actually be the best step to take. So keep me in the loop and see what's happening there, but you are doing the best thing you can. I've seen that in cases with many others. Those, as I just said, those who are already in the queue are primarily being processed. So now let me turn your guys' attention to what could also be another alternative, and I'll probably get on the share screen, maybe not. But another type of an SBA loan that you can look at are the microloan programs. And I've been speaking about that this week, a little bit last week, I believe. And I just released a video that how the microloan program works. Are you eligible? Are you not? What would you need to meet? Excuse me. That's what happens when you have vegetable juice. So I had egg this morning, then I had a vegetable juice. Never mix vegetable juice or fruits of some kind on a concentrate like that with milk and cereal, because that will completely destroy your stomach. I know it does it for me. But that's another option on the table. And I think I left a video down below in the description. You can go ahead and view. If not, I'll link you to the URL so you guys can watch that video on getting a microloan. And that's where you can get up to 50,000. On average, people get 13,000. Rates can vary between 8 to 13%, if not 6 to 9%. It's by lender to lender case and by these communities, organizations working with the SBA. And that's how you can get one. They're not necessarily going to be, quote unquote, the easiest, and they're more for a startup and newly established business. But I wouldn't count my quote unquote blessings on getting an SBA microloan. That's just another step you can take outside of the EIDL loans. Not everybody would get approved for. They would ask for collateral if you have any. If not, you can state that. It's not always a necessity, but there are forms you would have to fill out. And it's not as extensive, but it's another venture to go down. And again, it's not something that I recommend 100%. And I know it's something that a lot of people are looking for, especially if you're a complete startup or newly established. That's a good question, Brian. And that's only something that they have information mostly about. That's not something that I can give away quite easily. So that's something, if you can get a hold of them, make sure you get that question asked across. And I know I have a lot of knowledge on the subject, but the loan officers, as much as they give me, I don't always have everything, and they can't give me all that information. So when some people go, well, how do you not know? It's because they cannot release that information publicly to someone else. No matter how much of a relationship I can have with one or multiple, that's not always given. Yeah, if it was on the May 4th, Winston, yes. Technically, you're already in the queue. Now, it just depends on the order of relevancy and when it will be looked at, because what they're looking at right now is when they were submitted. So it's not on a case of, well, I have better revenue, I'm, have this to give up and that. They're looking at it like, think about it as a row and a column and columns. You have different buckets. So the people who submitted it first are up in the front end. Those are going to be getting processed much faster, and those who are already in the queue there. And then it's on and on from there. It's a huge primary way that they're looking at these files. So the SBA microloans are another option. Terms, they're up there, but they're not going to be 30-year term loans. Don't expect to get that. And again, they're not always a given. So another alternative option you can take are collateralized funding. And I'll get into that in just a second. You're welcome, Winston. Collateralized funding, I mean, like, do you have any real estate, any kind of equity? What kind of liquidity, if we need to look at that? Do you have inventory, equipment, accounts receivables, unpaid invoices? Aging accounts receivables is preferred, but not the only way. You have multiple forms of assets that you can give up. And so those are some of the things to look at if you're willing to give up collateral. We have services out there outside of EIDL loans, outside of microloans. You could look at something like an SBA 7A and or a 504/CDC program. I have answered your question earlier, Owen. I'm not sure if you were listening, maybe you had tuned away for a second, but I said that those who are being in the queue are those that are being processed. There may not even be an application or for you to even start to get an increase at this time. But again, refer to your EIDL portal. If you had an email given to you, perhaps there was another one sent out to you. So please refer to that, and that's where you'll want to tune to. Now, on the SBA 7A and 504/CDC program, those would be asking for collateral for a certain amount, over $25,000, over $350,000, and they're looking at an extensive amount, 2 to 3 years of personal tax returns, 2 to 3 years of federal tax returns, business tax returns, credit report history, about 12 months of bank statements if needed, an SBA loan application on top of perhaps another loan application, and more forms. And this is stuff that I gather from individuals that I've been getting a lot of people processing through the SBA 7A, but then those who do not qualify, those who have possibly amounts of revenue on a yearly, on a monthly basis, but they don't meet the credit requirements. They maybe have the right credit score, but there's an in-depth look at the history, the reports, what they're telling us. If you're taking on too much debt, but you have the revenue, you have the time in business, you're established, credit, we're not going to process you because you have too much debt. Your debt to income ratio is just way too high. Now, if you were to lessen that, which a lot of people are not in a position to, that's why they're getting a loan, so they can pay a lot of that off. But when you're in a position where you have too much debt, your credit reports are not helpful, too many inquiries, utilization rates, etc., and more, payments deferred, not paying your bills on time, taking on too much more than you can chew, not paying on time, taking too long. This is a lot of what the SBA is looking at. But those are not the only options. You also have those collateralized loans. You can do it through a secured form of financing. And it depends. Like today, and I was going to try to release a separate video on the interest rates. I still may not. But it's gone up to about 4%. So 3.5% prime rates to about 4% prime rates. Sure, that's a jump, but it's not as extensively as I thought it would have gone. Could have gone up 0.25 more. But at 4%, even if it's at that amount, that is a bargain, especially like the bank rates, 4%. But over here, you're looking at a private lender, 4% plus for aging account receivables, 2%, and in some cases 4 plus 2 to 8%. That's a bargain. You have to think about that. And then secured lines of credit, you have about 4% to about 2 to 8% on top of that. So you're looking at about getting into the early teens. so about 12% or so, for securing it with collateral. That is a given, and that is a bargain with everything going on right now, inflation and our economic position. When people complain, it's because I want 2%. No, I'm going to wait for it to go down to 3%. You're lying to yourself if you're expecting the interest rates to go backwards. They're not. And I'm not going to say they're going to never do that, just not anytime soon. But COVID is but no, it's not just because of COVID. COVID is a big instrumental part of that, but it's not everything. Yeah, mismanagement, Sam. I agree with you. And I know I didn't say mismanagement earlier, but it was inappropriate in a better sense of how it was handled, because she's on operations behind all of this. And having to shut down everybody getting processed when the funds were completely depleted, it's not a way to handle it, because it's misled a lot of people to say, well, there's no more funds, so what's going to happen with my loan application? She could have at least come out and said this, hey, if your loan application is in the queue, this is what is expected, and that would have helped their case. I don't know if you would agree with me on that, but being in a position to help the people is what she's in. Right? She shouldn't be looking at us as just a number, which I'm sure she doesn't. But if you think about it, insurance companies, you go down the line, home mortgages, anything, a lot of these, they look at you as a number. So it's like you're going to the butcher shop. I used to do this when I was a kid with my mom and my younger brother. We used to go in and grab a number, wait for your number to be called. It's ready. You can go ahead and take it. Used to wait a long time. Sometimes we were the front, we were in the middle and the back. So it's kind of like, here's a number, boom, take it. And it almost feels that way. And what I say to, I think this is another thing that me and my dad were talking about yesterday, my mom, my younger brother was there too. We're all together. We were talking about how, what was it exactly? 1 second. Yeah, it was on a similar topic, but we were just talking about how the same thing. People are looking at, Airbnb. Oh, here's a good one. I'm supposed to be in California May 19th with my family for a wedding. The person we booked the Airbnb with in Huntington Beach, California. Location, location, location. I used to live a little bit of a background. I used to live in Garden Grove, California. I was born in Fountain Valley, California. I live now in Vancouver, Washington. So going back into that general area is a blessing in disguise, because not only because there's an attraction and there's a place to go, you can go in certain spots, you can go to the beach, but because it holds a lot of sentimental value, the nostalgia of me driving through those streets, going down the street to pick up In-N-Out, going down to Swap Meet, going down to Tommy's, going around the different corners around those counties, around the city. And so what happened, the individual just about yesterday canceled for us to go into that Airbnb. To say I was disappointed is an understatement. But for them to be able to cancel, it almost leaves you feeling paralyzed. Like, how do they have that ability? How is that even not even against the law for them to cancel like 10 days before we're going to be there, let alone 5, 4? I'm sure you guys would be in anger. A lot of emotions were running through me yesterday. But I thought about the positive. I thought, well, there's always an alternative. But the location we were in and our expectations, the meaning, not the actual money we were putting in, the meaning of being in that spot just meant the world, because from there we would have to go to San Bernardino, Riverside. That's where like the whole wedding would take place. And so them having to shut down on us and tell us, no, we can't have you guys stay, there's an emergency, wasn't specific. Perhaps they're trying to do the bait and switch technique. Maybe they're trying to tell people, oh, well, we found somebody else who can actually pay us more. or we're going to list this for a sense of urgency for the last day and see who takes it. Or they may have had a very sufficient enough of an excuse to say, hey, we need to cancel this for an emergency. It was probably very important. Who knows? They can't give us that. But it is very disappointing. And in a sense, it feels like that. Like if the Airbnb business was more intuitive to people, which I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not saying not everybody isn't. What I'm saying is if they took more time to understand the individual, their vision and the meaning behind staying in that Airbnb, at least getting a little bit of a connection, then it wouldn't be looked at as just a money thing, an investment. Because what a lot of it is, they're looking at it as, how can I earn money? They're taking out the human factor out. So if that individual in Huntington Beach would have known, hey, I haven't been in the city for about 5 years. I have a grandma who's passing away, and that's not what's happening here. But if there was a sufficient enough reasoning behind that, you take in more of the human approach as opposed to just. So this is why, as a business owner, you also have to invest in visionaries in your business. Who are the operators? Who are those that are going to help you succeed? You lead them, not try to fix everything for them. I'm that person still to this day who knows every little part of my businesses, and it's hard for me to let it go. Like I know how to do this with blogging. I know how to do this with the video. I know how to edit this. I know how to do this on social media, email, funnels, websites, etc. But if somebody is highly specialized in it, or they can take that off your hands, lead them. Don't always try to fix it for them. So adding a human element to everything is very important, not only in your own business, but when you're getting business funding. So let me go over here to the comments, but that would conclude everything. Make sure you guys look in the description for all information on alternatives to SBA EIDL, the 7A, the 504. There may be a quiz, but also there will be a questionnaire form. If you guys have not submitted, there's that burp again from the vegetable juice. I have a questionnaire form where you can fill it out in less than 30 seconds. Literally, you fill it out, and I will be able to get a hold of you and get you a more personalized and customized email response on what your best funding option and options are, very thoroughly broken down. This is into qualifications, how it works, the numbers, and everything in between, such as conclusion, what to do, bonus material, and so forth. And I know some of you guys who are here are thinking, well, I've already done that. Why haven't you gone back to me? I will get back to you, and I apologize for each and every one of you who I haven't responded back to. It's not an excuse. I am very and literally busy and productive right now every single day on projects, not just one. So please be considerate of that, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Like Fridays and Saturdays tend to be my most catch-up days. I'll do some in between that, before it, but come that time is usually when I put a lot of emphasis in this. So let's see, Winston. You were denied because no record found. The same letter states that I can go to my local IRS office and see what's the problem. But when you went there, you were able to get a transcript. Is it enough for funding? Well, without me seeing any of that, but you did submit it beforehand. So like I said earlier, it should be in the queue, and only they will know because it's in their hands and it's in your hands as well. So that's what you'd want to do, is wait. But at the same time, what I tell business owners is don't expect that because you're in the queue, there will be some absurd amount of funding that will be given to each and every single one of them in the queue. Perhaps there won't be people who get it. Perhaps other ones will get it. So what I say ultimately, without getting any further information, as it develops, I'll have more from the loan officers and so forth that I can come over here to share with you. I appreciate you, Winston. And that's what I'll do. I'll continue to update you guys. This is behind the scenes stuff that I'm getting. And it's not just something you can find. There are certain elements that you could, but other ones that are more specific when it comes to those topics. So what I recommend, I'm going to give this about another 5 minutes and I will get going. Look for alternatives. Like, sure, you're not going to get a 3.75% interest or less with 30-year term loans, with monthly repayments, survival money funds. Yeah, but there are these alternative options if you qualified for them. Let's think about it. Let's say you're doing $20,000 in average monthly revenue. Now you are needing some absurd number, which seems to be the case when people go apply for EIDL loans, because let's face it, you may not be well educated on how much you can actually get approved for. Not everybody knows this. Let's say you want $3 million. That's not happening. Not even with collateral, perhaps, but it's way out of reach. So if the primary use of this $3 million was for you to get out of debt, which seems to be a big one, business expenses and so forth, survival purposes, that's what we're focused on. Well, think about it. If you're doing $20,000 a month, about $240,000 or so on annual gross sales, you get approved between 10 to 15% of your annual gross sales up to 20%. More so in the 10 to 12% range is on average. So if you're doing a little bit of math right now, think about it. You're doing $20,000, cash flow wise is good, credit is up there, time in business above 2 years preferably. We can get you, and even if you don't have that time in business or credit, we can usually get you up to 75% of your average monthly revenue. And even we look at the lowest month, up to about 200%. But in a lot of cases, it's up to 150%. It's more realistic. And that's what the number statistically tells us. So 20,000, you're looking for 3 million, that's not happening. You have high value real estate to give up, accounts receivables. At 20,000, specifically in your industry, that's not going to work. Now, let's not even get into the cash out refinancing and giving up commercial or real estate property investments. That could also be way out of reach. So think about this. 20,000. You need 3 million to get yourself out of debt. My question to you is, do you really need the 3 million at once? Over 90% of the answer to that, no. So then my second lead-up question would be, what if we could get you close enough to 20 or maybe double if everything else looks good? Would that be helpful enough for you to use for the time being for what you need? And then you can come back after you paid off about over 50% of that and refinance. Perhaps next time around we got you 40,000 this time. Then we can get you maybe double that, 80,000. Now you're at 120,000, or just another 20. Now you're at 60,000. Think about it, and don't just cram yourself into a little bucket. But because the interest rates and I'm rate sensitive, and I get that all the time. But it's not always about the interest. It's not about the rate, not even about the term. In some cases, the term more than anything. But above all that, your total payback. So an individual who's doing $500,000 a month gets an interest of, or a rate, it's a difference of how we calculate a rate and an interest. But let's say for this example, they get a 25% interest rate. They're doing $500,000 a month. Cash flow wise is good. It's on and up projection wise. Now, taking something to start with 100,000 at a 25% interest, it's not bad, unless their use of funds are for survival. They're already struggling. They're trying to get themselves out of a tight pinch. Cash flow insufficiently, or they will hit that in this next and upcoming season. We're already in the late spring, hitting summer. So really think about, hey, is this a hard season for me? Will I really need to use the funds? Is this when I'm going to produce the most ROI in the short or the long term? Those are questions you need to be asking yourself. But a lot of the reason why people get EIDL loans is for survival money, and that's primarily the use of funds, and that's what it is for. But if you're in a category where cash flow, good, positive, and I also have, I need enough, I do want to offer collateral or I don't, but these are my alternatives. And even if the interest rate's high enough, the benefit needs to exceed your repayment. It's not the other way around. Repayment up here, benefit, no, don't. Benefit, repayment, even if it's here. It just depends on the organization and the financial structure of your business, if you can take that. If not, take less than you can chew. You got a proof of $40,000. Oh, well, I'm paying back $59,000 because I got a higher rate. Not necessarily is that a bad thing to someone else, but it is to you. So what I recommend doing, you can either go fix your fundability details, fix your FICO, fix your time in business, let's get your revenue up, fix those bank statements, fix everything that's happening, how you're depositing, background, if anything, and so forth. Inquiries, debt to income. Or we scale back. We look at saying, okay, well, instead of $40,000, let's start off with half of that. Let's do $20,000. So now the impact of how much you're paying back is probably $20,000 less or so. So instead of paying, let's say you were paying let's say you were paying about $5,000 a month. Now you're paying $2,500 a month because you scaled back to $20K. Would that be able to help you? With $2,500 per month, depending on the term you got, maybe you got 8 months for your projects, or what you specifically need to use that funding for, be helpful in a lump sum. Now, if you got a line of credit, then we're speaking a little bit differently. And it's in similar sense the use of funds for. So that would conclude everything from me in this video. I do appreciate your guys' time. Be careful also about who you guys listen to online, YouTube, blogs, social media, your friends and family, a complete stranger. They don't always have the clear picture unless they already spoke with me or someone else. And a lot of times people who come to me before and even after, they get saved a lot. They get shown the actual routes that work. Like I'm working on billion-dollar deals right now. I kid you not. I'm not just putting that out there for, what's the word? Was it cap? I guess that's what millennials, I'm a millennial, but I don't use the word cap. No cap. I guess that's the trending word. But I'm literally working on every type of file right now, millions, billions, high profile A-tier clients. And I'm not going to get into who they are. But I'm also doing deals of about 100 and up, 100 and less. Startups, non-startups. I help you guys in an equal way possible. I'm not just helping you get EIDL loans processed the way that I do it. I'm not just trying to get you the next grant. I'm not just trying to pair you up with a lender or brokerage and just leave you there. Be careful about who you guys listen to, because if you want to hear from an expert, loan broker / agent, somebody who's actually received funding for his own businesses, I used to struggle hard, zero revenue for months on end, no $3,000 a month until over years of doing it consistently at what I was doing. And getting to a point where I actually got to 5K was difficult. It's not of a lack of resources. I was very resourceful. It's just, it's not always as easy as it seems, especially if you're on the online world. You're building something brick and mortar, maybe producing you faster ROI right away, but it's not always the case when you transition from there to here, and even if it is a brick and mortar business. I would say so, Sam. And that's a lot where a lot of the difficulty comes from. I'm not sure if you would agree with me on this, but less than 10 employees, that's a big reason why people are suffering, because they have a lack of staff. And you don't have the funds necessarily to hire people and then pay them and do what you need to do. So having less than 10 employees, depending again on the industry, not every single one, restaurants could be one. That's a huge one. Retail, you lose employees, you can lose a lot in revenue. Somebody who's actually helping bring in more tips, helping bring in more customers, You just lose an employee. Now you got to fill that gap. Now you're the one that has to go make up for it as the business owner. And who knows how fast it will be before you recover. So those are just a few examples, and there are many more. But yeah, just know, guys, that there are alternative options. Be careful who you tune into. Sorry, I'm a little tired now. Trying to catch my breath. But there are these options on the table. And if I've spoken with you, take them to heart. And if you have any questions on them, feel free to email me, text me. Perhaps it is a quick phone call we can get on. But there are options galore. It's just we don't open our eyes, or we do, but we just close ourselves up because we see the interest rates and we go, that's a medium to high rate. If you didn't listen to what I said earlier, it's not about the rates. It's about the total payback. Look at what you're paying back on a monthly to about the daily, everything in between that. And ask yourself, will that be sufficient? If not, let's scale back the offer if you were given one. Start from there. Perhaps we can evaluate you for a line of credit on top of a term loan. And then you just move from there. That's how you continue to build. As in, did you have to refer to your SBA portal? Perhaps it's a delayed response. That's what tends to happen. Might be that in this case, Jay Bunny. Hi, Teddy. No, not at this moment. And there was nothing in the portal that indicated where to go. Yeah, it's because of what's getting processed, likely because of what's getting processed right now in the queue. So they're not going to be accepting any new applicants for the increase. So that could be it. How long ago? Okay, so I'm going to... Good question, Teddy. Right now is a great time. So yeah, if you submitted it today, then it's likely it wouldn't get processed because it's looking at those who are already in the queue who submitted it before or on May 6th. So that could be an indication why. So Teddy asked, so what was the video that I made for gig workers? Now, if you're an independent contractor, 1099, gig worker, self-employed, even a small business, then if you're doing $3,000 a month in average monthly revenue, you have at least 3 months in business, you can get approved for about 20 to 25% of your average monthly revenue. And there are no credit requirements, as well as you can use a personal checking account for business. So I'll leave more information of this down below in the description. I think I made one. Yeah, I did. It said self-employed funding available or something similar. So I'll try to link you to that and show you how to get through the application process. Okay, Jay Bunny, then all you got to do then from this point on is just wait. There might be a discrepancy on their end. They might have made an error, but I would email them back on your situation. That would be what I would do. Like what you just explained to me, that makes the most sense. That would be my most logical next sense to take. Sorry, I'm getting these notifications. But yeah, I'm going to let this run for a little bit more, and then I will close shop. You got it, Teddy. Nice. Yeah, so just all you can do now is wait. I might be able to no, I'm not going to do it right now while I'm on the live. I can open up a new window and go edit the video. And in the description, I can put the link for you guys to go ahead and get started. Perhaps I can do it. Let me see right now. Give me 1 second. No, I'm going to leave it like this. I don't want to disrupt anything. Sometimes the connection gets lost when I'm going to upload while I'm on live, and it confuses everything. I was going to show you guys the business loan form, the questionnaire, but I'm sure you guys have seen that already. But if you have not submitted that, make sure you guys do. That'll be the fastest way for me to get a hold of you. And it will be an easier way for me to be more energy and time efficient with all these files going through. Good question, Marquette. You are asking, do you think they will open it back up? I mean, to the extent that it is now, yes, of course, it's a given. But I could see it opening up again in the future. I wouldn't want to say immediate future. There's still a lot of stuff that the SBA has to sort out, especially how they organize things. But also, because of the deferment for the amount of months you were given, it would be a little harder to justify opening it back up. But yeah, I can definitely see it. There's no actual update on that part, but as I continue to get more information, you bet I'll be releasing it here. I hear you, Jay Bunny. No, I'm sorry to hear you're going through all these difficulties and what you need to pay off and what you really need to get yourself out of. So many of us are struggling just with debt alone. And, you know, I was at a time when I had to pay off student debts, going to college, university, all that. Let me tell you, know what you're going to school for. And school did a lot for me. It's put me in a position that I am in today. It helped out with certain job roles and so forth. But just really understand why you're going. Yeah, you didn't do enough. No, that's unfortunate. Yeah, if you don't meet a certain amount that they're asking for, that's how it can go backwards. So I'm going to give this about another minute or two, and then I will get going. In that meantime, I'm going to see what other tabs are open here. Yeah, like I've spoken with people recently who, how so, Charles, who they're trying to get themselves out of an instrumental amount of debt. And it's hard to see because so many of them are like, well, if I don't get this funding and this doesn't happen, I'm going to have to close. And it seems to be the case with a lot of people. And there's only so much we can do to process these EIDL loans that are already in the queue, that are not in the queue, how much we're willing to accept, and so forth. And how you go from there. So let me see if I have any more notes here to go over in case I missed anything. Yeah, I already covered this the other day. I really hope so too, for yourself and everyone else here who's struggling. But, we're seeing right now, especially with the interest rates and things going up. I mean, I can give this a little bit more time if anybody wants to ask anything else. Let's see. Well, they want to look at your, hold on. So, let's see. Good question, Brian. For how ineffective and perhaps effective, I think she's kind of crossed the line, but the amount of power she holds, I would say give her a little bit more time with everything happening right now. And who would be able to take over? I mean, there's a lot of questions to answer, but I would continue with what we have. Now, I don't work directly, like as in I'm the loan officer, but I get information from people that I know, as well as I don't process, I'll be looking at it and processing and making the final decisions, but I do have a lot of extensive knowledge and understanding how they get processed. So I'll be able to share with you guys how to put an increase in, how to put this in the subject line, what to put in the body, what to make sure you have everything correct, how the follow-up sequence goes from there, and so forth. No, I'm with you with that. 2019, Savage. So you got to understand the formula of how everything is calculated on what you would get. So 2019, 2020, what they're looking at to see the amount that you're going to be given. And I won't get into the specifics of what that formula entails, but it's a little one that you can go ahead and figure out, and that's how much you would get for the loan. It could be a quick turnaround, and quick by the SBA terms, well, it can be, I would like to say a week, but it can fall somewhere even between 2 to 4 weeks. I'm being quite honest with you. That's more of an expected time frame. I know there's been people who get it much faster of a turnaround, but it's also because they're already in the queue, and then two, they're already in the top and the front of the line. So it all varies. Good. So yeah, for anything updated, guys, if you're a new increase applicant, make sure you guys refer to your portal. It may not even be an option because right now what's being processed are those that are already in the queue as when the funds were completely depleted. So make sure you guys are looking out for that information on any updates. Make sure you guys are referring to your emails if anything is being sent to you that's changed. And that's how you will be well aware of what's happening. So let's see, maybe 2 more minutes. So I'm looking through a document of mine on another tab. So about another minute. Hey, the sun is out. It's been cold and gloomy here in Vancouver, Washington. You are welcome. But today the sun decided to show up. Probably will get out for a walk. But I did my exercise this morning. I normally work out, like my routine is Mondays I'll do weights in the morning, like a little chest workout, like biceps, shoulders, and then upper back. And then I will go into my work, or I'll go into reading, things that I'm grateful for. I write them down, journaling, get to my work. Tuesdays mornings, I will do a cardio workout if it's at home, or it might be on a walk or in a jog outside. And then Wednesdays tends to be an afternoon fitness workout. Thursdays are lower body weights, and then Fridays I go out on another jog. Sundays I usually go back out on a jog. Saturdays are like nothing. Okay, that will conclude everything in this video. As I mentioned, let me just quickly recap the EIDL loans, what is happening right now. Some of it, yes, you can say is absurd, but getting past all of that, they're still going through the process of those who have been in the queue, who got their increase in before the deadline, as well as perhaps anything thereafter that may be getting processed, that may still be open for you. So you got to check your emails consistently, keep looking through your portal. You know how they say the May 16th will be the deadline and when they will close down the portal? But who knows, right? With what happened right now, that could be a possibility where it's extended. So keep looking out for that information. Keep staying tuned. I'm reading what you're saying here, Savage. Yeah, but that's just not how they work, to be honest with you. That's why they have to collect it from that time. And a huge part of their formula in calculating how much you can get approved for is just by looking at your 2019. So again, that'll conclude everything from myself. I appreciate you guys' time for being here. I may pop on very quickly on TikTok if you guys want to follow me there. And that is all. Thank you all.